Now, to kick things off and go through some of the stories of the day, I'm joined in studio by Fianna Fáil Senator Averil Power. Good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon, Tara.
You're a busy woman these days. You are very heavily involved in the Yes campaign in support of a yes vote in the same-sex marriage referendum. What's the campaigning involving now as far as the political parties are concerned?
Well, a mixture of different things. I mean, obviously some of that is coming on programmes like this out in the media on debates about marriage equality and explaining our message about why bring in equal marriage would be good, not just for same-sex couples who'll have the same right as the rest of us to get married, but also for Irish society. I think it would be a really positive step forward for us as a country to treat all of our citizens equally. I think it'd be a really positive message for us to send out to the rest of the world, for Irish people to vote on an issue like this and say, you know, the Ireland, whatever about our past and whatever about how we treated women in this country for a long time, or the discrimination we had against different types of families, single parents or people who were divorced, or people myself who were adopted and forced away from our mothers because we had this view that you shouldn't stay with an unmarried parent, to leave all of that behind us and say, you know what, the Ireland of 2015 believes in equality and believes that everybody is entitled to equal rights, and that if two people who love each other and are committed to spend the rest of their lives together want to get married, then we're for that.
And what sort of reaction are you getting when you're out and about and you're meeting people with this message?
Yes, I'm also, as well as media debates, I'm also out campaigning door to door, meeting to people and explaining to them what the referendum is about. I find that a lot of people are still making their minds up.
Okay, I think the opinion polls are sort of supporting that, aren't they? There's a large still undecided.
Yeah, opinion polls show that I think people are saying that they want to vote yes. There's a large cohort of people who are saying that they're minded to voting yes. 70% of people saying, look, I am yes. But some of those saying, but they still have some concerns and they want to be reassured about different issues. And I think it's useful when we call face to face, you're able to have a conversation with people. They can ask any questions that they have, any doubts. And for me, I find when you actually just explain to them that the referendum is about one thing and one thing alone, and that's whether two adults who love each other and are committed to each other should be allowed to get married, respective of their gender or sexual orientation. I think when you strip it down to that for people, most people are very positive about that. What's causing a lot of confusion, though, is that the campaign is getting dragged off into a lot of unrelated issues that aren't anything to do with marriage equality. So you see some of the No campaign focusing on issues like sperm donation, assisted human reproduction, mostly used by heterosexual couples. Actually, the number of same-sex couples using those are tiny. Yeah. Issues like gay adoption. I mean, last year in Ireland, I think there were 100 kids adopted. 90 were by step-parents or other family members. Only 10 were by non-family members. So you're talking about the number of children being adopted is very, very small. And in each case, anyway, the adoption authority in making a decision looks at what the best interests are for the child. So nobody has a right to adopt. Whether this referendum passed or not, that isn't going to change that one way or another.
And
people just
all of these issues being dealt with in the Child and Family Relationships Bill, which is passing through the House at the moment.
Exactly. So like the referendum, when you're being asked to vote yes, is simply on marriage. It's whether two adults who love each other should be allowed to get married or not. Like, and I find it, like I'm a married woman. I think marriage matters. I think marriage is really important, not just for the individuals concerned, but also for society. I think it brings a stable framework to relationships that's really good for society as a whole. But I just think there's something wrong about the fact that I have friends who've been together for 20 years, who have been together for twice as long as myself and my husband, and they still can't get married. And they have incredible relationships. They've been through ups and downs. I mean, marriage isn't a walk in the park. People have to go through ups and downs and be committed to working together with each other for their relationships and for their families. And to me, if somebody is happy to do that, whether they're man or woman or two women or two men, I say, well for them, like good for them, and we should support that.
But has that Child and Family Relationships Bill in some way, I mean, the government were adamant they wanted this dealt with by way of legislation before the vote ever took place. Has that kind of stymied the debate, though? It's kind of made it very difficult for the No campaign to put up any sort of an argument at all. I mean, this is what they firmly believe. They firmly believe that people should be voting no in May, and they have a number of reasons. Yeah. And taking that it's almost like pulling the rug out from under them in a way.
But see, the reality is that most of the issues that the No campaign are fighting on have actually nothing to do with marriage. They're relevant to family law, sure, in terms of issues like guardianship or adoption, but actually as things stand, and gay people can adopt. They can only adopt as individuals.
As a single person,
which
not
is
as a
actually.
couple.
But you know what? That's bad for the child concerned, because people do adopt, but only one person in the relationship does so. So the problem there is if the parent with whom the child has a legal relationship gets sick or dies, their other parent has no legal relationship to them.
That's the case for unmarried heterosexual couples as well, though.
Exactly, and that's why the Children and Family Relationships Bill aims to change all of that. I mean, the same-sex element of the Children and Family Relationships Bill is about 1% of the bill. The Children and Family Relationships Bill is recognising the fact that, as Jeffrey Shannon said this morning, he's the Children's Rapporteur, said that currently under Irish law, all kinds of families are invisible. You know, the law acts as if they don't exist. The law was set up decades ago for married families. It assumes that everybody has a married mammy and daddy, and yet we know that at least 30% of children don't. They're brought up by, there are hundreds of thousands of people living with single parents. There are kids living with grandparents where a parent has passed away, or perhaps the parents have problems and the grandparents step up to look after them in addiction cases or other situations like that. There are lots of children now living with step-parents, where parents have broken up or somebody has passed away and the widow has remarried somebody else. And by not recognising those families, and we don't at present in our law, we do a great disservice to the children concerned, because we don't give them the support and protection that they need. So the Children and Family Relationships Bill is about addressing that. It's about recognising the realities of Irish life. And, you know, some groups talk about, you know, the ideal is a married mammy and daddy, but the reality is not everybody lives in that situation. And we have to recognise the children that are there, the families that they are being brought up in, and ensure that every child is entitled to equal respect for their family. And, you know, all the research shows on child development shows the most important thing from a child's point of view is that they're brought up in a loving and supportive and a stable home. The shape of the family, whether it's single mum or grandparents or step-parents or two mums or two dads, is far less important than the quality of the family relationships that are there, whether it's a stable home where the child is loved and cared for, is by far the most important thing, and we have to recognise that and bring in proper protections.
Now, one listener texting in to ask, Averil, have you spent time trying to understand the counter-argument in the marriage referendum debate? I think all TDs or senators should be made to sit in a room and ask a devil's advocate to come in and challenge their views to make sure they fully understand both sides. This would help the debate to stay clean.
Yeah, I mean, I have, right, because a lot of, as I would say, I think there are a whole lot of different issues being debated in the campaign. The campaign is actually very straightforward. It's just about marriage. It's not about children, it's not about families, it's only about marriage. The Children's and Families piece is in ordinary laws that can be passed. Whether people vote yes or no in May, the Children and Family Relationships Bill will go through. So no matter how you vote, it doesn't matter. But I have listened to, and I would have concerns, right, when some of the No campaign bring up issues like assisted human reproduction, surrogacy, sperm donation. I have concerns about those issues because I have campaigned for a long time as an adoptee to have a right to know who my parents are. I have legislation that just got through the Senate 2 weeks ago on that, to give all adopted people a right to their birth cert. I believe that everybody has a right to know who their parents are, so I don't agree with anonymous sperm donation. Surrogacy makes me uncomfortable. I think the idea of having somebody else nurture the child for 9 months and then they're separated back to other parents, again, that causes issues for me. But I'm not voting on that in May because those issues are being dealt with by the Oireachtas in legislation, and I will work to influence that legislation. But no matter how I vote in May, that's not the question. The question is just about the right of 2 men and 2 women to marry. That's it.
And am I right in thinking all of the main political parties have already come out in support of a yes vote? Does that in itself, though, as well, make it a much tougher job for the no side to be able to articulate their point when every single political party...
But sure, like, are we to pretend that we don't think it? You know, from Fianna Fáil's point of view as a Republican Party, we think this is a basic issue of human rights and of equality. You know, there is.
If you take, for example, Fianna Fáil's view, and I appreciate this is slightly different, it's not a referendum, these were votes in the Dáil.
Yeah.
And the fact that when it came to the abortion debate last summer before last, was it now even, that, you know, you had a right to vote with your conscience there. Should the same rule not be applied? Should you take the party politics out of it? Because I'm I'm pretty sure that there are members of the Fianna Fáil Parliamentary Party and possibly Labour and possibly Fine Gael as well who aren't in favour of same-sex marriage.
Yeah, if they are, I haven't heard anybody articulate that in our parliamentary party or look for a free vote on it. I think the fact that there won't, not in every issue are the arguments 50-50. We had the children's referendum, all the parties were in favour of that as well, because we all believed that Irish law had let down children, and we had gone through so many decades of talking about child abuse and the best interests of the child, and that's why we backed when that referendum came up. All the parties backed it. I think sometimes the media rules, maybe the need for 50-50 debate, create this impression that every issue is 50-50. Sometimes they're not. Sometimes some issues are just issues of justice, and if all the parties agree, that's not some conspiracy. It's that we have all looked at this, we have all thought through the arguments, and we think that it's the right thing to do. But of course the No campaign are as entitled to have their voice heard. I feel very strongly about that. Even if somebody disagrees profoundly with where I'm coming from, I respect the right to articulate their point. They have to be allowed to do that. They have to be given the space to make their point. Actually, I think that the more airtime that they're given, in some ways it unravels their points, because you get a chance to actually tease through where they're coming from. If you look at some of the groups who are campaigning against marriage equality,
disagree with that.
But some of the groups that are campaigning very strongly against marriage equality, when the civil partnership legislation came in, they opposed that legislation. They said that would destroy marriage. It hasn't. They're now saying they're in favour of civil partnership, but just not marriage. So I think the more we can actually talk through where some people are coming from on this, the better, and the more time we can tease out to the issues. But marriage matters not just for adults as well and for couples. I do a lot of work with young people. I'm our party spokesperson on education, and not being able to marry causes difficulty for teenagers. Not that they want to be able to get married, but when teenagers are coming out and they're trying to come to terms with who they are, right, that's still a difficult process. Even in 2015, there's still very high rates of depression, of suicidal thoughts amongst young lesbian and gay teenagers. And one of the reasons for that is the messages that they get from Irish society about who they are. And the fact that marriage is denied to older gay and lesbian people sends them a message that their relationships aren't equal and are never going to be so, and that they're never going to have the same respect if they meet somebody and set up a home with them, that they'll never be treated the same as their heterosexual brother or sister who marries. And those things matter. It really does. And I think we need to move to a point in Ireland in 2015 where we embrace everybody, and if people are happy and living their lives in a good way, let's let them get on with it. Let's put the judgmental stuff, the prejudice and all that of the past behind us and move forward.
Yeah, and the No campaign, of course, would say that that stuff does matter to them too, but that marriage is as defined by a man and a woman. Senator Averil Power is going to be staying with me. We'll be back after these.
Moncrieff, brought to you by buyandsell.ie. Find it or flog it with ads for free on the all-new buyandsell.ie.
Visit MSL Motor Group in Dublin at MSL Ballsbridge Motors, MSL Grange Motors and MSL Park Motors, as well as MSL Cork. For parts, service and the best brands on four wheels, make sure it's Ireland's premier motor group. MSL.ie.
You know you're Irish when you can't stop talking about house prices or the weather. You always thank the bus driver. For the crack is the best reason for doing anything. You call your mum Mammy, and like saying like a lot like. And when someone asks you how you are, you're always grand. You know your website is Irish when you have a .ie at the end of your web address. Every .ie website has a proven authentic connection with Ireland, and .ie is one of the most secure domains in the world. If you're an Irish business, .ie is the right web address for you. Register your website as a .ie today. .ie, the official web address for Ireland.
Change your rattly old windows for Senator Premium Quality windows. And as well as a warmer house, you'll also have a warm feeling in your pocket when you get the equivalent of the VAT back from the Home Renovation Incentive Scheme. Order 5 or more windows and we'll give you 50% off a new back door. Order 10 or more and get the door absolutely free. For secure, affordable windows, call today on 1850 774455 or check out senatorwindows.ie.
Senator Windows, we protect your home.
An evening with His Grace.
Miss Higginbottom said to me in school one day, she says, Butler, how come you don't bring me any fresh raisins in the morning anymore? I said, because me pet rabbit diet.
Brendan Grace returns to the Gaiety Theatre for 4 nights only from March 25th. One of Ireland's best-loved comedians.
He said, what about the smell? He said, well, he's getting used to it, man.
Tickets from €30, including booking fee, on sale now. Brendan Grace, live at the Gaiety Theatre this March.
The Spar Great Ireland Run 10K returns to the Phoenix Park in Dublin on Saturday the 11th of April. With running events for all the family, it's a fantastic spring day out. Run to challenge yourself, run for fun, or run to fundraise for a good cause like Spar's nominated charity, the National Children's Hospital Tala. Find out more at greatirelandrun.org. Run better, run together Ireland.
Proudly supported by News Talk.
Moncrieff, brought to you by buyandsell.ie. Find it or flog it with ads for free on the all-new buyandsell.ie.
You're very welcome back to the Moncrieff Show. Tara Duggan in for Sean today. 53106 is the text line number. You can get us on that for 30 cents. You can also call us on 1890 453 106. Still with me in studio is Averil Power, Fianna Fáil Senator. We were talking about the impending same-sex marriage referendum. Another few listener texts on that issue. Averil and her people are ramming the yes vote down people's throat. They should respect the no vote people like me. I think this is a Catholic country and won't accept it. And from Paul, your guest is being disingenuous about the no campaign. Marriage is about providing a stable foundation for children to have a mother and a father. That text from Paul. Averil, I want to move on. We have new rules governing sunbed usage today. What do you make of this?
Well, as you can tell from looking at me, I'm not a sunbed user. I have a few freckles and that's about it. And no matter how much I sunbathe, I just get more freckles. But yeah, the new law coming in today is putting in place regulations to limit use. So already last year, the Minister brought in a ban on the use of sunbeds by under 18s.
Yep.
And now they're bringing in regulations to limit promotions of sunbeds, so no free trials, happy hours, deals to give people unlimited use, encouraging them to go under UV for an hour a day every day before their holidays, and also requiring businesses to display warning signs. I mean, I think it's sensible to have regulation. Skin cancer is the fastest growing cancer in Ireland. There were 10,000 new cases of skin cancer diagnosed in 2011, and most of that is caused by sun exposure, either by tanning away, I guess on holidays we don't get enough sun in Ireland, but by exposure to UV rays directly from the sun or by sunbeds, and it's preventable. Skin cancer is largely preventable. So I think it is sensible that people would just be, it's not a ban. Sunbeds are banned in some countries. They're banned in a lot of Australia, they're banned in Brazil. In other countries they ban them full stop. Obviously in Australia they're particular concern about the ozone layer, and they're very, very conscious of skin cancer.
They are indeed, and that part of the world, all the advertising, the slip, slap, slop campaigns for people out and about in the sun, always wear a hat and always wear your... Yeah. So I'm not surprised actually to hear, I didn't know that, but I'm not surprised to hear that they were banned. Should we be looking at a ban though here? Because I mean there are links. I mean the links are clear according to the medical profession. And I mean, okay, if you can't go in and use them, you know, unlimited usage and you must be over 18, but like they're still fairly I mean, they're very boring as well. I did them once many years ago. And
you can't read a book or listen to music. At least if you're lying in the sun on holidays, you can entertain yourself. You're just sitting there with goggles on, tanning.
And this is part of the new law that's come in today governing them as well, that people must use goggles. I can't believe somebody would have gotten into that without goggles.
Honestly, you've got to wonder. And you'd also, I mean, I'd always prefer to start with regulation rather than a ban. I think absolutely 100% ban them for kids. I mean, it's shocking that people were using sunbeds for holy communions and confirmations and things like that. It's just mad. The fact that you have to ban them for kids, I think, is crazy in the first place. But according to the Irish Cancer Society, there were up to 30,000 kids using sunbeds. Which I just think is phenomenal, because whatever about adults taking the risk themselves, putting your child into that situation, I think is incredibly reckless.
Those 30,000 children, if it is for communions, confirmations, etc., will probably just be slathered in fake tan now. I mean, it's a big vanity issue. I mean, should we really be allowing our children to think of, you know, to think that they need a tan on their big day like that?
Yeah, I mean, I find that horrendous. It's the same when you see like kids slathered in makeup for their communions, and like even some of the Irish dancing stuff. It's all about makeup and false lashes and all that. I mean, I think there's a point where you actually have to allow kids to be kids and just to relax and not have to worry about that stuff when you're younger. You'll be worrying about it, especially as a woman, for long enough as an adult. So, but I mean, look, I think in many respects, most Irish people are born with light skin. That's just the way it's going to be. Yeah. I've given up on the idea that I'll ever get a natural tan, but like the fake tan stuff now is there's really good quality stuff now. You don't have to look like an Oompa Loompa. So they do actually have good, high quality. You see a lot of the celebrities now as well. in magazines talking about how the fact that they don't subject themselves directly to UV sunbathing, that they use fake tan, and it looks fantastic.
Well, Joan Collins always puts her good looks into her. I think she's probably in her 80s now at this stage, and she puts it down to always wearing a hat and keeping her face out of the sun. Something else that you're involved in as well is these new draft laws on the regulation of e-cigarettes. Yeah,
this is a bill that I published a few weeks ago with Senator John Crown. John is, in addition to being a senator, is one of the leading cancer specialists in the country in Vincent's, and we're concerned about the fact that e-cigarettes aren't regulated at all in Ireland at the minute. So there are no age restrictions. They can be bought by people under 18. They're actually heavily marketed at teenage girls. If you look at a lot of the ads for e-cigarettes, attractive young woman smoking e-cigarettes, and it's kind of like how they used to glamorise smoking in the past to encourage women in particular to take it up.
The flavours that are on offer, fruit salad flavour and mint flavour.
There's chocolate flavour, vanilla flavour. Again, a lot of that, you would say cynically aimed not so much at adults but actually at kids. And there's no doubt, like, e-cigarettes aren't as harmful as ordinary cigarettes in general. Well, in general. Now, the problem is that there's a lot of there's hundreds of different types. Some of them produced to a high standard to minimise the health risks. Others produced as cheaply as possible in backstreet operations in China. For the most part, when they're tested, they're slightly less harmful. They don't include tar and things like that, obviously, that you would get in tobacco. There is still nicotine. But some tests have found that actually poorly produced e-cigarettes were more harmful than a comparable cigarette. So I think even from users' own point of view, it's in their interest that they're regulated. It's also, we need to stop them being marketed at kids. A lot of the other aspect of the bill is extending the workplace smoking ban to e-cigarettes, and the reason for that is that they do exit toxins. The World Health Organization has said that it's not just water vapour, that there are actually toxins, and we need to protect people from that.
You do see signs up in places like cinemas and hairdressers, etc., that they're not to be used there as well. But yeah, I mean, I think they're a fairly new product as well. I think, time may tell that they may in actual fact be more damaging. And to be honest with you, I know quite a few people who have stopped smoking by using them, which I suppose must be a good thing. Yeah. However, 3 years later, they're still on e-cigarettes. So it's not, they may be billed as a quit smoking aid, but how successful they are.
We're not banning e-cigarettes or anything like that. I accept that some people will find them useful as a quit aid. We just want to see sensible regulation, that's all.
Now, I see you in your running shoes, lovely pink running shoes in the paper this morning. You're behind the Mary Keating team for the Win-Wins mini marathon. You're a bit of a health freak, aren't you?
I love exercise. I run, I box. Boxing is my favourite sport. But
when did you survive so well down in that madhouse? Yeah.
But it's very good. I mean, it's great. It's a good way to unwind. When you have a job that's as busy as mine, it's a great way to unwind. But I'm nothing compared to my neighbour Gary Seary, who's also in the paper today. Gary has took up running for the first time in 2010. He's now run 40 marathons and he's about to do the North Pole. And the reason Gary took up running was he was struggling with depression, with alcohol problems, with mental health, and with being overweight, and he took up running as a way to kind of give himself a goal that he would do his first marathon. He said it's completely changed his outlook, and he actually says in the headline today that running has saved his life. So again, I think his article pinpoints the link between exercise and mental health. One of the best things you can do if you're struggling with mental health, it's not antidepressants or things like that. It's actually just get out and go for a walk or go for a run and exercise. So but Gary puts, no matter how much exercise I do, Gary puts me in the shade. I see him head out on a Sunday morning. I'm just getting up and kind of pottering around the house. He heads out for a run. He doesn't come back till the afternoon. So makes me feel pretty lazy.
Maybe you can have too much of a good thing as well. Senator Averil Power, thanks very much for joining us today. We'll be back with the news.